Good morning. My name is Dragan and I work with Richmond Foundation. I've been working with Richmond for nearly 10 years, actually 10 years next week. My background previously was in HR, and in 2010 I decided to move on the non-profit sector. I took the opportunity to, and it was a really challenging an opportunity at this time to support Richmond Foundation in developing the Employee Assistance Program. We were having the program before, but due to stigma and it was very difficult to promote mental health at the workplace. We needed a bit of a push, and it was a lovely journey, 10 years already. I've been responsible for all these years for our Employee Assistance Program, for the training aspect of Richmond, which we delivered and developed across the years. A few years ago, we acquired a new program, which is called Mental Health First Aid, and I became one of the first mental health first aid instructors in Malta. And since 2015, I have a keen interest in coaching, so I trained myself and went through a whole process of accreditation. And at the moment, I coach individuals and teams. Today, in this session, we're going to look at probably how the largest so far psychological experiment is going to affect people, with nearly 2.6 billion of people in some form of a lockdown across the world. What's going to happen? Most probably this is going to result in a secondary epidemic of burnouts and stress-related absenteeism in the later half of 2020. And taking care now of ourselves and the people we work with and the companies we work with, because when we're talking about mental health, we're not talking only about the mental health of our employees, but we're also talking about the well-being of our business, because the better well-being our business has in general, the healthier it will be and more productive. So taking action now is extremely important. Just few words about Richmond Foundation, so you understand where we're coming from. Richmond is a non-profit organization. The organization started in almost 27 years. Now this month we celebrate our 27th anniversary, and it's a community mental health organization. So we look after the community mental health, and we have two major lines of work. One of them is rehabilitation, where we have a lot of services that are taking care of people with chronic mental illnesses, and they leave there. We help them to go back into community. We have flats in the community. We take care of children through our kids program. We support also families of individuals with mental health problems. One of our greatest achievements recently is the launch of our helpline, 24/7 helpline, which was a big achievement for us because we were trying to get funding to run a 24/7 line. This is not an easy thing. Our line is with a very simple number, 1770, and we're really happy that in the first days we've launched that people are calling in the night and talking to our teams who are involved in the support of this line. So COVID-19 brought something positive for us. We're also and this is to touch on our promotion and prevention aspect. We're also the official provider of the Mental Health First Aid training in Malta. This is an international program which we have acquired from Australia. So Mental Health First Aid International is an Australian non-profit organization. It started, the whole program started as a couple of people were walking their dogs and discussing why there's no such course similar to the physical first aid course that helps people with mental problems. So we became one of the international providers of the program, and currently we run the three major programs, which is the standard mental health first aid course, the youth mental health first aid course, which supports individuals helping young people between the age of 15 and 18, 13 and 18. And we also have a course for teenagers, so it's called Teen Mental Health First Aid. One of our major achievements in Malta is that we trained nearly 3,000 people working from the businesses. And this was really something that made us really happy. And we have a number of companies who are, fully aware of the importance of mental health at the workplace. And now, in this particular time, we've reached out to them and we told them it is probably the ideal time to activate your mental health first aiders. So, what happened? Early this year, we started receiving more and more information that things are changing and this pandemic situation is growing and growing and is taking more and more countries. I mean, February and beginning of March, everyone in Malta was very worried about what's happening in Italy. Italy is only 90 kilometers away from here, so this is the closest we can get to any land. And this pandemic situation is for sure a life-threatening situation for many people. When we're talking about life-threatening, it could be also a perceived life threat when people have the feeling that something is going to happen to them. And our typical response in such situations is fear and distress. And these reactions, we can see them as a classical response to a traumatic event where we have the experience and we have the reactions and then we have the time of recovery, and at one point we have something that we call spontaneous recovery. It takes time and it follows a process. One thing we need to remember is that everyone is reacting differently in such situations, and every of these reactions are reactions which we call normal reactions to an abnormal situation. And just stop for a minute and rewind a bit and think how I felt when everything started, how I felt about myself and how I felt about the people around me. And just stay with this for a second. I mean, many people felt separated from loved ones. They felt the isolation, which, if you think about, it's not a complete isolation, but it was still feeling that something was taken out from us. We lost our freedom. Definitely some people feel bored, and that's a reaction I came across in many settings, especially if they used to a more dynamic life, and now when the life was a bit slower, they said, that's boredom. And it came actually from a research I'm going to show you a bit later, that 48% of the people that we interviewed felt that they are doing nothing. In reality, probably they're doing enough, but compared to the life they used to have before, that didn't match. There was a lot of worry about experiencing physical symptoms related to the illness, and if you reflect back, you will see that many of us had this overly self-checking, and many people checked their fever and temperature, check if they had any fever. If someone sneezed or coughs in the family, the worry was getting up. And this is very psychosomatic symptoms, but they are real and they're there. Many people felt the fear of loss, that they're going to lose their job, loved ones, their security, their even financial loss. But one of the major things that people felt is that they cannot justify when everything is going to be over. They don't know when the virus is going to be away. They don't know when we are going to have a restart of our life. We are very interesting creatures. We love to plan. And if we don't plan, this is making us very, very unstable. Although, we say we should not keep a very rigid strict structure, but we had plans. We're going to do this, we're going to do this. I cancelled a trip, I cancelled a lot of training, I cancelled a lot of work, other work came, but in the beginning, we all felt lost. We all experienced, and this we know for sure, we all experienced a collective and individual state of grief. We were grieving life that won't be the same anymore. Not necessarily worse than, than what was before, but we still don't know what's going to happen in the future. And we all went through the different stages of grief. Denial, this virus is not going to affect us. We were angry, how this is happening to us, why this is happening to us. We were bargaining, okay, I'm going to stay home for 2 weeks, wash my hands, sanitize everything, keep social distancing, and but I want everything to be over. And that was even my initial reaction. It's going to take a few weeks. Then very quickly I realized that it would take more than 2 weeks. Then we went through sadness. I don't know when this is going to over. I don't know how this is going to over. And we are, at the moment, probably majority of us at the stage of acceptance. So things are happening. It's going to stay. Let's see how we're going to move out of this and make the best out of it. And people travel at different pace between all the stages. And when we started working in the beginning with companies and organizations, I noticed many people being in the sadness stage. So nowadays we see more people that accept it. Are they happy? No, definitely not. But they somehow normalize the situation and move forward. Other people won't be able to do this, and it will take more time than just a couple of weeks. What is happening is we are redefining our definitions of safety and freedom. And this is not the first time in the past 20 years where we're doing this. And I can just remind you, 9/11, Paris, London, mass shootings in America, school shootings in America, Brussels. So at the moment, we are saying, what is my new definition of safety? What are the ropes that are making me safe? Is it the mask? Is it the cleaning? Is it the way how I interact with other people? If you remember, a few years ago, we changed the way how we travel with airplanes, and we introduced bans on carrying liquids more than 100 milliliters, more bomb checks. Flying from a very safe and easygoing process become a bit more difficult. Now, when you think about, you don't really notice this. You go, you know that you have to go 2 hours early, have to go through all the checks, and it's the same thing. The enemy is invisible. We can't really see where it is, and that's what makes us a bit more anxious. I was mentioning this survey we did in April with a local company called Esprimi, which was very generous from Esprimi to support us, and we questioned more than 1,000 people, and with no surprises, we found out that 53% of people working on full-time and 65% of people who are part-timers, and this includes also business owners, expect the income to decrease in 2020. Is this anxiety-provoking? It is definitely anxiety-provoking. 44% of the people working on full-time and 49% of the business owners, and this has always been a category, people who work on part-time and business owners, there will always be more of risk than people working on full-time, felt depressed on 3 or more days during the week. So when we're talking about them feeling depressed, don't think they have depression because it will take time before they can be diagnosed with depression. They just feel some of the symptoms of depression, being sad, being lack of motivation, being excessively worried about what's going on. An interesting finding was that 1 out of 100 people thought daily about any form of self-harm or suicide. And this number is increasing, particularly in the age group of 16 to 24, where 3 out of 10 people are thinking about self-harm and suicide. 47% of the population is also experiencing some form of depressive symptoms. What we notice here is that people at a younger age are more vulnerable than the rest. We were discussing a lot why this is happening, and one of the reasons was that most probably young people are less resilient, and they didn't learn resilience through the way older generations will go through experiencing different things in life. Probably they're used to a faster pace of life, and if nothing is happening for them, it's extremely worrying. Something else that we noticed, and this is really interesting, and I'm happy to see it, is that all genders are responding equally to the state of worry. Before, we used to see women more open to speak than men, more drastic in the way how they're dealing with the situation. Talking about life situations and how different people respond to them, we can clearly see different groups of employees and different groups of people who we classify as more at risk than others. I mean, it doesn't mean that everyone is protected, but we already know that people who have certain dynamics in their life are more exposed to mental health problems, and being in isolation or being with, in a form of lockdown, although things are changing a bit, and we're going to look into this as well. We identified that employees who have lack of support, and probably for the gaming industry, it will be interesting to know that a lot of expats are living alone with lack of support, and we used to see the issue with loneliness even before COVID-19. We had a lot of expat clients coming to visit our counseling service, where with issues that could be prevented if they had a close friend, a close relative nearby. Another group of people are employees who recently had a traumatic experience or loss. Another big chunk of people are those who have to still attend work, and they don't have the luxury of working from home, so they still need to go, and this is also putting a lot of toll on the family. But probably the one that really shines out of everyone, and it came through the discussions with a lot of companies, are parents who are caring for their children and they still have to work. So doing the homeschooling, looking after their children, and especially if you have both parents with a lot of commitments and full-time jobs, this is also a dynamic. I mean, they still have to work from home, they have to share the same space, and sometimes privacy can be an issue. And it's even more risky if couples have already some underlying family dynamics. It could be like relationship issues, domestic violence, aggression, and many other underlying issues. This puts people in a very odd situation. We've heard about people who are in the process of divorce or separation, who still live in the same house, and because they go to work, or they used to go to work, this was a form of respite, so they were going out and then coming back in the evening. Somehow things are moving. Now they're locked in the same house, so it wasn't very nice. But on the other hand, what we need to also acknowledge is that this stressful time brought consideration in some families, because we already got data from our therapists that there were couples who are going through certain issues and they put them aside for the time being, so they focus on making the family stable and taking care of their children. It doesn't mean the issues are not there magically, but people go into priorities. I mean, think about, we went into a survival mode when everything happened. We have another issue with people who have already been diagnosed with physical or mental health problems. I can mention depression and anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder. I mean, if you're preoccupied with cleaning and fear of germs, obviously this is the most horrible time you can experience in your life. Another category of employees are employees with substance use problems. We know from experience that such traumatic situations, and we can see this from other traumatic situations like 9/11, wars and conflicts, increase the substance use of the people. Here we also have another factor, a difficulty in accessing the substance. So those who have substance use problems, they might not have a way how to source their substance, and this might start withdrawal symptoms. We have also pregnant employees and employees who are in any form of, being poor or losing their job. What we need to be aware that even before the COVID-19 pandemic, we're facing another health crisis, and this was the crisis of loneliness. And study shows that around the world, more people are feeling sense of isolation, which has many negative effects, including increase of blood pressure, reduced immune response, decreased engagement, and productivity at work. In a recent interview, Dr. Murphy, from whom this quote on the screen is, said that organizations can be the place where people find a great sense of belonging. And we need to find and take loneliness very serious, and fostering on different types of communication, and we call them authentic communication. That's like a real and honest communication. Another crisis that we were noticing is the increase of mental health issues through the years, and it's been more than 10 years now that more and more issues are reported. So we've been living in different pandemics already for quite a number of years. What people experience and how we can notice ourselves and other people that they're passing through something. One of the major is fear and worry, the high sense of and the high level of anxiety. People sleep less or sleep more. I was talking to someone who is a senior manager in an organization. He's the CEO. During a session, he mentioned that he can't believe that he changed so much and how exhausted he is. He used to be an early riser, wake up at 5:30 in the morning, do things, very active. Now he goes to bed early and he sleeps till 8 o'clock. And he told me, like, that's not me. We can see a lot of cognitive overload. People cannot concentrate. People cannot make decisions. Lack of attention to details. All of these are symptoms of, early symptoms of burnout. Social withdrawal. That's another issue. Looking tired, drained, pale. Changes in appearance. I mean, I know a lot of people start growing beards when they're at home, and that's fine. But I notice even in certain groups how people were very enthusiastic in the beginning, and then they started, their appearance started changing. People become cynical, not participating in team meetings, refusing to switch their video, mentioning that they're taking more coffee, they have a bottle of wine through the day. All these things are a sign that people are going through something. I mean, all this time came with number of challenges, but also came with number of opportunities. And some of the challenges we've met already are the lack of face-to-face supervision or lack of face-to-face contact. For example, in number of companies, the people that had it difficult to adapt. It was difficult for them to adapt were the people working at reception. They were still available to pick up the phone and transfer the calls for other people. But if you think about a normal reception area, everyone passes from them. This is usually the hub where things are happening. And this role doesn't exist anymore, I mean, in working from home. It was a quick surprise for us, and we couldn't really realize in the beginning why, but it came from a number of companies because professionals kept working what they are supposed to do, and anyway, majority of our work was happening on computers. Social isolation, a lot of distractions at home, and you can see a research conducted last year when this was happening. One of the major issues is, and you can see it with 22%, is unplugging after work. So this is still one of the greatest challenges. We see people who don't put clear working boundaries in terms of how their day is going. They work late, they work in odd hours. I mean, it's one thing you have to move along and cater for your children or for other things at home. I mean, this flexibility is a big gift, but unplugging after work is more difficult. Even if you have to think, I mean, traveling back home was like a buffer between my workspace and the rest of my life. So this is not here anymore. What we recommend in situations like that is even like changing your clothes after work, because it gives you the physical experience of, hope, I'm not working anymore, I can do something else. Parenting and homeschooling, it's another issue, which is a big challenge. But then what are the opportunities? I mean, many people mention less time to commute to work, less time we're wasting in traffic. We can make use of it differently, and those who made use already start seeing the benefits, because when we ask them, what are you going to miss when you go back to work, they said the lack of traveling. And honestly, I recently started going a bit to the office and had a couple of meetings outside, including coming here. I felt really tired the first 2 days. I've lost my stamina. Although I'm training physically every day, I've lost my stamina of traveling and going to meetings and things having back-to-back. Better work-life balance for those who are having their families, spending more time with family and loved ones, more flexibility. And probably one of the biggest opportunities is we are redefining the way how we work, our practices and processes. I'm just seeing some questions coming. Pierre said several organizations are reporting higher productivity output from the workforce working remotely. Why do you think this is? And it's a good thing. Is it a good thing? Yes, I mean, it is a definitely good thing. And I prepared something later on where I'm going to show you why I think this is, a good time for employees' engagement. But yes, we are seeing, and one of the reasons is that people are very grateful that they have this opportunity to work. I mean, now the organizations need to be more careful in terms of putting the right processes in place so people don't overwork. Because a few weeks ago, we were talking with a client, and we're also discussing between ourselves, and everyone was saying, I'm extremely tired, I stay in my chair, I do things, but when I switch off, I am drained. And coincidentally, on the same evening, we found this article on BBC where this term Zoom fatigue came into place. I mean, think about, we are exposed, like we're 24, where most of the time we're broadcasting ourselves live to other people. And it's not like being on a meeting. When you're on a meeting, you're physically present there. Here, our brain is telling us, okay, I see all the people, but my body is telling me I'm not there. So there's a conflict of thoughts, how the body and the brain are communicating. And when we communicate online, we use only one part of our body. So all other expressions are limited, and we need to focus on our voice, on mimics, and less gestures. So this is really a big problem. So we have to make sure that people do their job, but we also make more face-to-face meetings a bit more productive. I got myself that sometimes I have 4 or 5 hours of lifetime or screen time in a usually 8 to 9 hours working day. And on top of this, as Pierre mentioned in the beginning of the conference, we do our gym sessions online. So imagine I start with a gym session, then I start with team meeting, then I start with training. So I am feeling tired, and so do many people are tiring. And quickly, how we can actually start protecting ourselves and protecting the people around us. One of the major things is our leadership, how we lead people. We have to be really mindful about this, and we still have to understand that we are adapting to what's going on at the moment, although we feel adapted, but our life is not adapted. And think about, we run away from work, and now people start getting a bit more hopeful that things are going to get better. We have some restrictions lifted in many countries, but there's still the physical worry that something is going to happen. So we're still adapting. We need to keep our expectations, self-expectations, and the expectations of other people realistic. Majority of us will adjust, but at a different pace. It's important for leaders to show that they're humans. We, as managers and leaders, we also suffer from everything that we're talking about. And since we're not superheroes, if we're more open about it, it will help people to understand that, we're also going through this. Definitely micromanagement is not the ideal approach. Here we're talking about building trust, and maybe that's why we have numbers of productivity increasing, because there's more trust, and we trust you that you're going to work. The trick here is that many people might say, okay, the company is trusting me, but I need to meet this trust. Let's put more effort. So we have to make things realistically. Try to remove any stressors for the employees that are not necessary at the moment. We already came across companies where employees were told business as usual, you're working from home. So there was no looking into our targets, our practices, what happened with our clients. The market is not the same, obviously. One thing that can help here is coaching and mentoring. And I'm not saying it only because I'm a coach and work with clients, but I'm saying it because I believe that it's a very, very helpful thing. The coaching can be internal. The mentoring can be also internal or external for many people. Bouncing their thoughts with someone from outside and having a confirmation that they're doing well is great. It's also good for teams because teams can find the time now to maybe change certain things and look in certain dynamics and support each other. So that's things to look into. I mean, leading with empathy. People need to be to feel safe. People need to be feel understood. Recently, we came across a case where an employee was late for a meeting. It was being shouted online. Not the best practice you can find, of course, without the manager asking why the employee actually was late for the meeting, and this is the second time it's happening. This employee was a single parent. The child had a tantrum. The parent had to, do what a parent will do. Think about how people are going to keep their motivation and if they're going to stay with this company. Another issue that I'm finding quite important. I mean, being positive is great, but we need to be careful because nowadays being positive has a different meaning, and a lot of people are afraid of positive people, if you know what I mean. We had one of my teammates was diagnosed with coronavirus, absolutely asymptomatic. It was quite interesting, and we were joking with him, "You're such a positive person." And as soon as he was brought as a negative, we say, "No, you're a negative person. We don't like you negative." But going back to what I mean by positive, there's something called toxic positivity, and the people, because they want to do something good, they just push with their positivity and move on with it. But those who feel sad and feel less positive, and they have the right to be less positive, feel that someone is pressing them down and they cannot express how they feel. Could be like a very realistic sadness. So balance in positivity, I'm calling it be a realistically positive person. Healthy leaders, healthy employees, and I already touched on this. We need to protect our leadership teams. I am working with a senior management team from a company. Last week we had a team session with them, and we noticed that they are very stressed, and the CEO was mentioning that he needs to start putting some boundaries, not working late, not sending emails to the employees, and because the risk is there that if people overwork, once this is over, the management teams are going to be very tired, and they might not be able to be present when they actually will be needed at most. Summer is coming, so what will be the protective factors we can use to support our people and teams and leadership teams? I mean, the first of them is psychological safety. This is when people feel safe to express their views and ideas without being punished for this, even to express their feelings. And there are quite a number of definitions of psychological safety through the years, but in general it means like, I am feeling safe to be part of this team. I'm not going to be judged. I'm going to be included and safe to learn and say that I don't know something or say the way how I feel. This is really important. Another thing is fostering work-life balance, even as a company, making people stop and telling them when they have to stop, providing training on resilience, increasing our communication, and putting the boundaries. What will be the new boundaries? Can I contact my employees at 9 o'clock in the evening? Is it the right time? Is it expected? Is it a good practice? Can I contact them on Saturday? Don't forget, because we work from home, we still need our weekends. So that's extremely important. And this is the answer of the question we had about the employee engagement. COVID-19 may be the best thing that ever happened to employees' engagement. I have another question. What do you think employees expect from the day we are back to normal? That's a really interesting question. Definitely, employees don't expect things to be the same way they used to be. Employees expect some flexibility. They would definitely need a lot of safety. Employees would definitely need a lot of safety. And I'm going to speak about this in a second. So Josh Bershin said that employees are feeling more engaged and engaged, and they did the research, and they said that the engagement went actually quite a lot, and this was the ongoing issue with people having issues with engagement with their companies. He outlined few transformation factors that is need to look into. First, companies are protecting their employees. Second, it's a huge increase on employees' productivity, well-being. A lot of companies started having well-being classes, sessions, things that are even more there. They engage their families, so it become a bigger picture. A huge, and this is the third transformation factor, a huge increase in learning, especially for leaders, and change of culture of leadership. And there's a new focus on HR and how HR are doing their job. And we had another a question how employees can sign the signs of a mental well-being with their employees, and what you can notice are very typical things. You have reduced productivity. People have slower responding time. People are become a bit edgy, sometimes frustrated. Energy is down, but you have to be careful because in a typical day-to-day setting, from beginning of this year, we will meet each other. I will have time to notice the changes. Here, the more time we spend with your teams, the more time you have to observe. You can also bounce with other people, and listen to other people who are telling you what's going on. Look for any changes, and try to be aware of what are the life situations of people. Are they living alone? Are they have family issues? Are they have their children? So you have to really use your senses to spot the signs. Being with these meetings, it's important. It gives you a lot of time to discuss. Also, notice the emojis people are using. Prepare for a conversation with them. Put the things into perspective. Make sure that they have their their privacy in place. We've heard of people going to a car to have a private conversation. Many people have an issue with privacy. So don't judge them. Don't offer immediate solutions. Listen to them. If it's not a crisis, you still have time. There's a question how employers can use the services of Richmond Foundation. I can explain the services, what we have. We have an employee assistance program, which is offering counseling and therapy. We have a team of 17 professionals covering different areas of, from clinical psychology to psychotherapy, family therapy, and counseling, so all the variety. We also offer something which we call employee, for the employees we call e-support sessions, which are very short-term intervention in the form of 3 sessions. We are moving with the flow, and we listen to what people say, but this is not therapy. We help them to build structure, to maybe find who is going to support them in their life. We also provide training, which is also very helpful, and people can also phone the 1770 and get help there. It's not a therapy line, but at least they can get therapy. It's important then when, if you're already using our services, when you phone 1770, you explain also where you work. So probably my colleagues will be able to, set an appointment, offer other helps that you'll be entitled to. And the big question here is, and when this is over, what's going to happen from here? How I imagine the day one? I imagine the day one as a very anxious experience. We already know that many people are going to have issues with their physical safety. And this is what we need to take into consideration. People will need to feel protected. We are not going to go back the same way we left. This is not going to happen. Companies need to discuss with their employees, and I know that many of the companies who are here and we're in touch with them already told some of the employees that they will come back when it's safe to come back and they feel safe to come back. We need to really look into how we're going to move from, I'm calling it the first version of COVID-19, working from home, to the second version of COVID-19, working from home. How we're going to update this, how flexible we're going to be with our employees, because we already see a sharp increase of absenteeism in countries in lockdown. People are still afraid of catching COVID-19. We will see a second wave of this 3 to 6 months, especially like when the next flu season is coming. A lot of people are going to have flashbacks and typical post-traumatic stress disorder reactions. We've seen this from many other examples. For example, military units coming after deployment in a very active zone, companies who work to ground zero, 9/11, and medical professionals in regions with outbreaks of Ebola, SARS, and MERS. So here, now the next step is, what are we going to do after? My advice is, don't push things, discuss with people, see their personal situation, because if I have to talk about myself, I'll be able to go back to the office in July, because the way how my family function is, my wife cannot work most of the time from home, so I need to start taking care of our daughter most of the time. So I won't be able to go back on full days from the office. So assess everyone's situation and make sure that you are as flexible as you can, but at the same time you put certain measurable things. So make sure that people still deliver, that people still have their targets. Don't make them isolated because they're still working from home, but the other people are meeting in the office. We have to go really step by step, following what are the guidelines from the health authorities, because a lot of people saying there might be a second wave of the virus. We still don't know for sure. I know that some people are really happy working from home, and it really makes them feel good. But we need to move slowly with the adaptation process. I think I covered everything that I prepared for you. If you have any questions, maybe I can answer. Don't know how many minutes we have, but I'm sure that we have around 5 minutes for this. If you would like to contact us, you can go on our website, and you can contact us from there, or you can send an email to support@richmond.org.mt, and we'll come back to you as soon as we can. I would like to finish this with talking about how important it is to gain something out of the situation, and not only wait, because that's probably majority of us are going to gain out of COVID-19 if we had no health experiences, but see what we learn into this, and see how we can move forward, because it's not going to be the same, and let's make it a newer, a better version of what we want to be, because even the title of this conference is Restart. So this is the time when we have to hit Control Alt and Delete, forget some of the practices, learn from the past experience, measure what really happened, get the feedback of our employees, and see how we're going to restructure, because the more engaged people they are, the better their well-being be at work, and they will stay with us, because when you run a business, the thing you want to do is keep your people. I'm seeing 2 questions. I've heard that long-time remote employees have relied on time blocking to manage their work-life balance. Is it a good strategy to avoid burnout? I've read that long-time remote employees have... okay, so it is the same. Yes, keeping things on blocks is really helpful. Blocks of, now I do this work, then I'm taking care of my family, then I do this. It's important to make sure that the blocks don't get too bigger and too longer. So they should not avoid your sleep. But I know many people who start early, before the children are awake. They take care of certain things, they take care of the children, prepare them, then they go back. And discuss with the families and with people you live, and observe. How is Richmond Foundation coping at the moment? Have you seen increasing cases? Do you have enough resources? No resources, we definitely don't. We're always looking for more resources. As I mentioned about our helpline 1770, we've been discussing it for the past 5 years. We launched the number a year and a half ago. Yes, we see spike in people using the helpline. But then on the other hand, our therapeutic service, we had a drop of around 30% because it wasn't the right time for people to do therapy. Now we're going to start seeing another spike coming after. What do you suggest for tips for better mental health through the day? One thing that really helps, and I experimented with myself and with my team, is having good structure and routine at home. You know, making sure that you physically know when things are changing, like waking up at the same time every working day. Then if you want to sleep more on the weekends, you sleep more. So like you do the same routine. You have your breakfast. I worked with a client and he told me I usually go out for a walk with the dog, and then I go to the gym, and then I go to work. And I said, what stops you of doing this? So, actually nothing. So he started, walking the dog, doing some exercise, preparing for work, dressing properly for work, keeping things like they will happen in a normal day. For example, a lot of people start putting meetings back to back. And I worked with a company and they really made me very anxious because every 10 minutes someone's like, I need to go to a call. So everything was so back to back. And I was like, guys, you're at home. Think about in a normal day, you would never do this. Why are you doing it now? Keeping a good routine. Think about you live in a space station and everything follows a certain routine. I would like to thank you for being with us today. I wish you good health, and I hope you would not need our services or the services of any other mental health provider. But if you're in Malta and you would like to speak with us, get in touch, keep safe, and let's make the best out of this experience.